In Genesis 17, the Lord appeared to Abraham and ratified or certified what we now know as the Abrahamic Covenant. In the earlier chapters of Genesis, God outlined the blessings of this covenant, and in this chapter, he presented the signs of the covenant. In the ancient world, part of covenant making involved verifying or memorializing that covenant with a sign or symbol. In Genesis 17, Abraham and Sarah memorialized their covenant with God with both a new name and a token. The Lord said, "Behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham. For a father of many nations have I made thee. As for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be." So the Lord didn't drastically alter the meaning of Abraham's and Sarah's names. Both Abram and Abraham are related to the Hebrew roots meaning father and exalted. Both Sarai and Sarah are related to the Hebrew root meaning princess. However, the act of their receiving a new name symbolized their drastically new identity and relationship with God. It signaled their allegiance and new kinship with God. It represented them becoming something new. The power of naming can be seen in the creation story in Genesis 1. To God, creation was not complete until each component was given a name. In Genesis 3, the story of the fall was not complete until Adam's companion received her new name. Before the fall in the Genesis account, she was called woman. After she partook of the fruit of tree of knowledge of good and evil, she was named Eve, the mother of all living. When nuns and monks take their vows, they often take on them a new religious name. When kings and queens ascend to the throne in the modern world, they often take upon themselves new names to signify their new identity and relationship with the state. When Abraham and Sarah took upon themselves new names, it marked their new identity and relationship with God as God's covenant sons and daughters. In addition to receiving a new name, the Lord established a token or sign of the covenant by requiring all covenant males to be circumcised. "And ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskins, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you." In our modern world, this sounds understandably uncomfortable and even gross to be connecting foreskins with sacred covenants with God. But its intimate nature really cuts to the core of how visceral and personal the covenant was to Abraham and his posterity. In the ancient world, covenant making was often accompanied with sacrifice or the shedding of blood. In fact, the idiom in Hebrew for making a covenant is karat barit, or literally to cut a covenant, because covenants frequently involved some form of cutting or sacrificing. In Genesis 15, Abraham severed animals in a sacrifice to the Lord, and then here in Genesis 17, he had a perpetual reminder of his personal relationship with God through circumcision. Sarah also received a token of the covenant with God. In Genesis 17, God promised, "Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him." So God signed to Sarah of the covenant was blessing her with a miraculous son. This son and future posterity would be a continual memorial of her covenant with God. For both Abraham and Sarah, the symbols of the Abrahamic covenant were connected to reproduction and posterity. The etymologies of their new names, Abraham and Sarah, as we talked about, connected them with royalty and parenthood. Abraham's token of circumcision reminded him of how the fruit of his loins would bless the nations. Sarah's token of Isaac similarly was a memorial to her about her role in being the mother of many nations. The new and everlasting covenant that God established with Adam, Abraham, and us today centers on posterity and our potential for eternal increase. Joseph Smith taught that the purpose of the sealing covenant was to forge a welding link, connecting our posterity and our ancestors in an unbroken chain back to God. This network of relationships to God connects us to heaven. The Doctrine and Covenants taught that if a man marry a wife by my word, which is my law, and by the new and everlasting covenant, ye shall come forth in the first resurrection, and shall inherit thrones, kingdoms, principalities, and powers, dominions, all heights and depths, in time and through all eternity. Then shall they be gods, because they have no end. Producing posterity is both a sign of our covenant to God and one of the great blessings of the covenant. Having children creates strong bonds of love and connection that fill our lives with meaning and purpose. The connections between ancestors and descendants connect us to God in a welding link. And having children also promotes the perpetuation of the Abrahamic covenant in time and through all eternity. In temples of the Church of Jesus Christ today, members become part of the Abrahamic Covenant by making sacred promises with God in the temple endowment. Temple covenants give us a new identity and new relationship with God, and like Abraham, we memorialize our commitments through sacred symbols. So the next time you tend the temple, I'd invite you to ponder ways in which our temple symbols help you memorialize the promises that you've made with God.